Build Your Business listeners. This is Matt Reynolds, your host for the podcast, and you are listening to what we are calling the legacy episodes. And really, these are the pre-episodes that really led to this podcast, the Build Your Business podcast. This is really my life's work and my brother's life's work in building your business. And so they were originally published in the Barbell Logic podcast as part of the Principles or Coaching Success series, but really touch on similar topics to the Build Your Business podcast: how to improve your productivity, how to set and accomplish your goals, deprioritize urgent tasks, to focus on what is most important to you, and most importantly, to become a better person and leader and business owner overall. I'm proud to bring you these podcasts. Again, many years of life's work, several years of podcasts, and several decades of business ownership. Hope you enjoy them and learn from them. You're listening to Barbell Logic,
the podcast where we talk about what it means to experience strength
and how you can use simple, hard, and effective strategies in training and nutrition to improve your life.
It starts with meeting you where you are right now and finding lasting solutions.
Welcome to the show. You're listening to the Barbell Logic podcast. This is another episode of the Coaching Success series. I'm your host, Matt Reynolds, and I'm here today. First off, I'm in my cabin. If you're watching this on video, I'm here with a very special guest, Michaela. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. Happy to be here.
Super excited to talk about your story. And the reason, for those of you who are listening, why we wanted to have Michaela on the show is because we've thought about the client life cycle for years. This was really a Nikki Sims thing from years past. We started to recognize that we would have people that would consume our content. Some of those people would become clients. They would get really involved in strength training. They would get strong and get PRs and improve their quality of life. They wanted to teach other people how to do that. And so we didn't have a pathway back then to do that in the early years. And so we developed the academy, the education process, the essentially giving you permission. Not that I think anybody needs permission from us to coach, but I think a lot of people are like, oh, until I have all the certifications, I can't coach. And then start your coaching process or start your coaching brand or start your business. And then, of course, we had developed a software, TurnKey Coach, for us that was just a proprietary software. And we decided really sort of at the end of COVID, as gyms had been closed for a very long time, that it was something that we thought that the market needed. And so you have gone through that entire process. So what I want to do is I just want to walk through your story because I think it's a really interesting story of how you got started on this journey in the very beginning. So I'll start there. Tell me a little bit about your early fitness journey. Like, from what I understand, you started more in kind of the fitness space, and I'm using air quotes, fitness space, and transitioned into more of the strength space. What initiated that change for you?
Yeah, so I had started with personal training, and it was very much from like the endurance standpoint, circuit standpoint. I got my certification through NASM and then started training at a private local gym. And they were like, hey, we want to train our clients using barbells. It was a very high view of barbells, of just like kind of sprinkling it in there. And so I had never trained that before.
Sure.
So they were like, they got me under a barbell, and then I started training people with barbells. But it was like very much like I said, sprinkled in, like, let's do squats once a week or deadlift or just like maybe some lunges and like load it a little bit.
So I assume you were basically coaching what you were doing in your own personal life, right? I assume you were doing mostly endurance and cardio and fitness and aerobics or whatever that was. Like, what does that background look like? Did you get really into that before you started to do like going through NASM and doing that fitness sort of personal training side?
Yeah, so I had a background in exercise science, and then I was big into just like sports, hiking, just movement. And then my training job, I taught group classes, which was mainly just like circuit style.
Okay, got it. So then they start sprinkling in strength training. What year is this, by the way? Ballpark?
This is 2019.
Okay, so not that long ago.
Nope.
So yeah, 5 years ago. So now you're like, okay, here's a barbell. Were you nervous about it? Were you scared about it? Were you like, no, it's like, what were your feelings around the barbell?
I was actually pretty nervous because from my background, I had seen it. I had like the fear approach of like barbells hurt you.
Sure.
And I had a back injury back in 2018 when I was in India. Like I was traveling for a year, had a back injury, couldn't really diagnose what it was, but I was like out of it for like 6 months, just debilitating pain. So coming back into it, even like that fear of like, I'm going to hurt my back more.
Sure.
Like when I was starting lifting was there.
Right.
But then I pivoted really quick because I actually the lingering back pain that I had started to go away.
Right.
Like when I started training.
Did you have pretty good coaches, even though they were just kind of sprinkling in the strength stuff? Did they teach the form relatively well?
I mean, it was enough to start.
Okay.
I say that because I kind of went on my own journey of learning from whatever content I had in them for 2 years. And then I went to my first lifting seminar and learned the Vasala for the first time. So that's why I say like
Right.
there was a lot of stuff that was missing in the beginning.
You're like, wait, I'm supposed to hold my breath while I lift?
Yeah.
So now, not only am I going to destroy my back, I'm going to have a stroke in the middle of the lifting.
Yeah.
Like,
what is this?
no, that's not,
No, thank you.
not what happens.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. How did you first hear about Barbell Logic, or how did you get exposed to Barbell Logic?
When I went to a lifting seminar, that was in November 2021.
Okay.
And I went with my dad, and it was just like changed everything. Like I came away from the seminar very humbled because I was like, oh, wow, like I don't know what I don't know.
Yep.
And even like just simply putting in the Valsalva, like my lifts went up like 20, 30 pounds. I'd been in the fitness space and like growing clientele and stuff. And I had posted on my Instagram, like some of the stuff I was learning at the seminar. And my cousin's wife is Liz Zutrell. She's one of your guys'
one of our coaches. Yeah.
And she messaged and was like, hey, like you should look into Barbell Logic. Like they have all the resources for you. So that was the first time I heard about you guys.
So did you start diving down the like YouTube trail or the podcast trail or both, or just devouring whatever you could in the beginning?
Yeah. And then I emailed CJ about the academy because I was also in the midst of like, I want to open my own space. And I was trying to figure out my own clientele of like, oh, this is changing my life. Like strength is changing my life. Like, I'm already in this space with being a trainer, but I want to pivot in how I'm training and helping people. But I need more knowledge to do that.
You said exercise science is in your background. Do you have a degree in exercise science? That's actually what you went to school?
I do, yes.
It's crazy, right? Because I've taught in college in exercise science, anatomy and physiology, kinesiology, biomechanics, all that kind of stuff. And you realize that they don't ever teach exercise science, and they don't actually teach you how to exercise. It's really bizarre.
Yeah.
Like, they teach you how to read an EKG, or they teach you how to take a VO2 max, which I still don't know that I've ever done on an actual client before, but they never teach you how to squat or deadlift. Like, again, the concept of functional training, that's sort of become a dirty word because we understand kind of what those functional trainers do. But is there anything more functional than just picking something heavy up off the floor? Like, we have to do that every day in life, and they never teach you how to do that. So you end up with this degree, and they've never taught you how to pick something heavy up off the floor. It's so bizarre. Okay, so you dive into the academy. So what was that experience like in the academy?
It was amazing. So I was pivoting even because I was looking for a commercial space to open up a gym at this time. And then like pivoting to my own training life of like, okay, like this needs to be more like strength based. And so with the academy, it gave me the blueprint for like the teaching progressions of even thinking through, okay, like how do I take someone that's never touched a barbell before and like go through squat, deadlift, bench press. It was outlined in such a way that gave me the blueprint to do that.
Yeah, I love it. The Academy team has done such a great job in the curriculum there. I joke, I don't even know what permutation of the curriculum we are on now. It's probably 6 or 7 that we've gone through. And it's just because I think that CJ and the team, and I think this is part of the culture of Barbell Logic, is we always want to put out the best, highest quality content and then never be satisfied with what we put out. And so we put it out, and then we immediately get to work on a better version of the thing, right? And that's what you do. And so even like TurnKey Coach is the same way now. Like TurnKey Coach is fantastic, and yet we're never going to be happy with it, ever. So it's just going to constantly get better. So CJ's done a great job. And the thing that I think that I love so much about the Academy is that, one, it's extremely practical. There's a lot of value-based driven pieces to the Academy, but it's still very practical and tactical. It's stuff that you can take away every day, every lesson, right into the gym, and you can put into practice. But 2, you can do it on your own time. And this is the great flexibility or the great freedom problem that I think that we see. You had to go to school probably for 4 years or whatever and spend lots of time to learn how to do VO2 maxes and read EKGs and not teach somebody how to squat. And so with the Academy, you get to learn at your own pace, on your own time, early in the mornings, late in the evenings, on the weekends, at your lunch break, whenever is available to you. And the content is just outstanding. The whole team does a great job there.
Yeah.
So then when did you open? So now you're okay. I feel pretty good about this and you're getting stronger yourself. You're teaching people how to get stronger. And you're like, it's time to open a gym. When did you open your gym?
February 2023 is when I first started taking clients.
Okay, got it. And where are you located again?
In like the greater Seattle area, it's Kenmore, Washington. But yeah.
That's what I thought. Okay. Yeah, so you're Pacific Northwest. And so how'd that go? Like, what did that look like in the first few months? Were there things about, leasing a space and just getting an LLC and all the kind of basic business admin stuff? I think a lot of times we've talked about this on the podcast a lot, that you fall in love with the thing, strength training, and you want to do it for other people. And then you realize as soon as you become a business owner, the strength coaching almost becomes secondary to the business ownership. And so what was that process like for you in becoming a business owner, just kind of having to learn and often just sort of getting thrown into the pool and just being like, sink or swim, here we go.
Yeah. I mean, to be honest, it was pretty rough.
Yeah.
I didn't really know what I was getting into. And then I started just reading different resources, books, listening to podcasts. And then you figure out what you don't know along the way and you learn.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm fortunate to have a great location for my gym. And so 90% of my clientele literally see the banner and they look it up and they come in.
Awesome. Are you in a strip mall or like on a major street? A lot of traffic going by? What's the kind of basic location?
It's like a highway with streetlights that goes into Seattle that connects all like the major cities. So there's like roughly like the commercial space was like 70,000 cars go by here every day. And there's a stoplight right after. So like people are stopping and like looking. Yeah.
So like the banner sign is real important.
Yes. Yeah.
For you. So no, that's great. Okay. So then you're doing this in, you said early 23. Is that right?
Yep.
So been about a year and a half now. Is that somewhere in that ballpark?
Yeah.
And how has it gone? Like, what is the coaching practice? What's the in-person side? And we'll get into the online side here after. What's the in-person side look like today? Like, how often are you coaching? How many hours a week are you coaching? Has it grown at the rate that you thought it would grow at? If not, why do you think that is? Like, what's it look like on a day-to-day basis for you to run the gym?
Yeah. Right now it's a little different because summer is slow.
Yep. Everybody's on vacation.
I have my base like clientele, but as far as like new clientele coming in, there's not a lot because of the summertime.
Sure.
But as far as hours go, like I've roughly in the week, like I take on like 2 to 3 clients.
Okay.
I try to cycle them through because that's my limiting factor is me. So if I keep on holding on to the same clients, then I can't get new ones.
Yep.
And so I train them for like 2 or 3 months and it's on like monthly plans.
Yep.
And then they go through it and then they transition to the online space.
Oh, I love it. And continue to train at your gym.
Yes.
But then this is perfect. So you've got this like beautiful hybrid model that we've tried to teach gym owners because we talked to so many gym owners who they were further along the path than you were, and which is actually a negative because they're now at this position. They maybe have even garnered a name for themselves. Maybe they've got a big following on Instagram, whatever the thing is. And they're like, I'm in the gym 60 hours a week and I can't leave. I can't take a vacation. My wife and kids will take a vacation. They leave for a week or 10 days. I then leave on the weekend for 2 days and I get to spend 2 days on vacation. And you're like, you don't have to coach that way. There's this great model. So I love what you do. So you bring a client in, you train that client for a couple months. You're like, yeah, you're ready to do this. Like you can continue to use the gym and then you transition them over then to TurnKey Coach in online coaching. And I assume it's probably cheaper for them and it's more money per hour for you. And there's freedom for both. And so the client then gets to come in anytime that they want to. They don't have to meet you at that exact 7 a.m. on Monday, Wednesday, Friday morning. You don't have to be there at that exact same time either. And you can break down their videos and give them technique feedback. So what does that look like? How has that process been for you, transitioning from the in-person space only to the hybrid model? And then are you also doing online coaching only? Do you have any clients that you just online coach or are they all local currently still?
Handful.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So starting to move that direction. So yeah, what does that process look like? And how's your experience been with TurnKey Coach and moving these clients over to this hybrid model where they still get to train in your gym or go on vacation and they get to do online coaching or the hotel gym or like whatever it is? What's that process look like?
Well, first off, it wasn't like that when I first opened my gym.
Yeah.
I was going off of more because like the gym that I had worked at previously, like their pricing model was like, per session.
Yep.
And you sell like in bundles of 5, 10, 15, whatever. And I'd actually listened to one of your podcasts that was like, stop doing that.
Yeah.
Don't do that. Like do the monthly.
Charge monthly. Right.
And charge monthly and do offer like 2 to 3 sessions. Like it'll level out.
Yep.
Some clients will only be able to come in once or 3 or whatever. And so I transitioned that pretty quickly. And that was a really key thing in my business model because it allowed me more freedom. I was also getting frustrated with the like, people would come and they would then skip a week, right? Because they're like, I have 5 sessions. I spent like, this much money.
Yep.
And I want to kind of like space it out. And so then it's like, well, they're like detraining every time they're coming in.
Of course.
So it like on both sides worked pretty well.
Did you have much pushback from the clients that had bought a package of 5 or 10 or 15 and then you went, I assume you at some point you went and had to have a hard conversation with those clients, with all the clients, and say, we're going to the monthly model. And the monthly model is this, and it's going to be this much per month. And that's what it's going to be. So was there pushback there? Did you lose some clients? Or were you able to transition them just into the gym and away from the personal training side if there was problems there?
There wasn't a lot of pushback because I like pricing wise, I made it pretty, like it made a lot of sense.
Yeah.
As far as for them to get like the monthly.
For everyone.
Yeah.
Makes sense. You're doing this, selling sessions at a time. Then you go to monthly, which is much better because you also know what the accounting is going to be. Like you can then project out how much revenue you're going to make every month, and you can look at your expenses and you can figure out what your profit margins are and all that kind of stuff. When did you hop on? When did you get on TKC? It wasn't that long ago, right? Onto TurnKey Coach and start to move those clients into this hybrid model. What was that like?
I opened in February 2023, and then May 2023 is when I got TurnKey Coach.
Oh man, you were early adopter. Okay.
Yeah.
I remember you were on one of the early calls that I did, right? You were really a beta test coach.
Yes. Yeah.
That came on to beta test this. Okay. So in just a few months later. And so what was that like?
It was amazing. Like I had used the softwares. I had tried like 2 or 3 different coaching softwares, and just like from a like logistical standpoint of like, I need to keep track of their programming and their notes. And like, and as clients grew, it was becoming more and more of a nightmare of like, how do I even like organize all of this? That transition, it was very smooth. And I had been working with a coach, my coach, Chrissy. I've been working with her since April 2022. And so I had known like, even like the software side from a client side, like I was like, this is seamless.
Yep.
So that transition was pretty good.
And think of how much better it is today than it was even in May of 23.
Oh, I know. Yes.
It's a lot better.
Yeah.
Wait till you see, I don't know if you've seen the design yet, but wait till you see the design for the native app. It is mind-boggling how good the native app is going to be. And that's going to be on the client side first. But it is, for us, we built this software for us. So we just needed it to work really well. Like you said, be seamless in essentially sort of fading into the background and creating a bridge between the communication between client and coach. But as we took it to the market, we started to realize, well, it doesn't just have to work really well or be seamless. It has to look awesome. So most companies come in and they actually make an app that looks awesome first, but doesn't work very well. We did the opposite. We made an app work really well. And then now we've gone back and with the native app, we should be beta testing it by the end of this year. And then it should come out in Q1 of next year for everybody. The design is unbelievable. Like I watched it. It's something between like laughing and getting emotional, which those of you who know me know that I don't typically cry for sad stuff. I cry for happy stuff, but I'm like, I can't believe this is a thing that we put out. It's so amazing. And so again, coming back to the thing that we said in the very beginning of the show, like we're just never going to be satisfied. And so the thing works awesome, but man, is it going to look awesome in another few months. And you'll actually have a native app for your clients, which is also, I think, a big step forward for the clients. Okay, so it's working well. Sorry. And so what does the schedule look like now today, or for you doing this hybrid model now with your clients and using TurnKey Coach? What does it look like for them? Assume they've got now the flexibility to travel, to train, go on a business trip or go on a vacation. Like, what does that look like?
Yeah. So flexibility wise for me, it means that like I was spending like 2.5 hours to 4.5 hours in person. And then now it's like 15 to 30 minutes, like per client per week. So that transition.
15, right.
Yep.
For the online.
For the online.
Yep.
Yeah. And for them, like they have more of the flexibility too. Because what I was running into as well is like scheduling, right?
Of course.
It's like when you're working in person, you're like, oh, sorry, I can't make my 3 p.m. can you do this or this or this? Or it's like, no, but we scheduled that.
Can you just sit there from 3 to 4 and I'll show up at 4 p.m. and I'll be like,
Yep.
sure, I'll just sit here for an hour and make no money. And while I'm waiting for you to show up. Although the online piece helps that too, because you're like, actually, I can just sit down and do online coaching for that hour. And so sure, come at 4, right? So there actually is some flexibility there too. So anyway, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. But that flexibility for the client has been pretty good as well, as far as like them going on vacation and having more of that like freedom and not like booking out for the month.
Yep. Less detraining I've seen in my clients. I'll tell my clients, look, as soon as they get to a hotel, they check in, they take video of the hotel gym, which often is not great, dumbbells up to 45s or 50s. And we tell them, we're like, look, we can't train with barbells here, but we can still exercise really hard and we can avoid detraining. So we bench 45-pound dumbbells on a tempo, on a 3-second eccentric tempo, a pause in the bottom and a fire up. And we do that for AMRAPs. And obviously I tell them, like, if you get to 20, stop. Like, I'm not trying to make you brutally sore, but we can get a pretty good workout in a hotel gym or a resort gym or whatever, the gym on the cruise ship. And what I found is then when they get back to the home gym, whether that's an actual home gym or whether that's their gym, like your gym in the city they live, there's been almost no detraining. I don't have to back them off 20% and run them back up again on basic LP. I can just pick up where they left off and repeat probably the last 2 workouts, and they're right back where they were. And so I love that as well.
Yeah. And even from the like app side, I've noticed that clients are more bought in. Like they're kind of addicted to like mark complete, and like they see like the stats come up, they see the PRs, they're like way more invested in their training.
Yep. In the beginning, were you just keeping everything on notebooks? Or were you using a different third-party programming software when you very first opened the gym?
Yeah, I was using Coach Catalyst and then I was not liking it. And then I was using notes just literally on my phone, like notes, writing all the programming down, taking all like the client stuff that I needed to keep track of.
It's amazing because one, again, for most of us who are coaches, we're also clients. So we see it from both sides. So I see it from my cell phone as a client and I see it as a coach on my laptop. And you get that little dopamine hit when you hit the PR because it tells you that congrats, you just hit a PR. I was like, oh, I didn't know that was a curl PR. And it's like, but the app tracks that. But the other thing it does is for a coach, it makes you much more professional or appear much more professional. And I think you are much more because it gives you so much more data to work with. So you get to then congratulate your client. I would have never known that they hit a curl PR if they were keeping track of the thing in a notebook or even on all essentially of the other third-party coaching software, programming softwares out there. And then you stack on top of that, the fact that you actually get to talk to your clients, break down technique, do the screen recorder. I don't know if you just saw, we launched the new drawing tools like in the last 2 days so that now you can actually draw.
I just saw that. Yeah.
Like on live video. It's wild. So it's, we're just trying, I think the hard thing for us is trying to get the rest of the world to understand that we are not like all of the other programming softwares out there. It's just something completely different. Like it's a completely different model of coaching. And it's a model of coaching that brings freedom to both the client and the coach. From a value perspective, it's cheaper for the client than to hire you for full-time personal training. And it's more dollars per hour for you because you can work through more clients per hour, a lot more clients per hour, often 20 clients per hour as opposed to 1 per hour. So what does your daily schedule look like now? Are you, and no judgment here because everyone knows that I'm the early morning guy, but what does a normal day look like for Michaela at this point?
Yeah, at this point, I take clients Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And so I leave Tuesday, Thursdays open for like business stuff so that I don't fall behind on that. But I'm not an early riser like 4 a.m. like you. I'm 6 a.m.
Right.
6
That's
a.m.
still perfectly fine. I wish I didn't get up as early as I did.
Yeah.
It's not on purpose.
Yeah. 6 a.m., get up, kind of get my coffee, read a little bit, and then I do my flow right away. That was another part of like, even when I first got TurnKey, like the learning curves of it, of like I'm my own business. And so your guys is like out, like, like the countdown, like, oh, you have 5 hours left.
24-hour feedback.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which I initially hadn't like decided, like I'm going to do 24-hour feedback, but now I do. I mean, the software, like it helps you even that, because I was so stressed out at first because I was like, oh shoot, like I have all these late videos, even though it's late to your guys' standard, which was not my standard, but now I've adapted that.
Sure.
But just even like the stress of that, and then just figuring out like, okay, like no, like I just will do it at the same time every day. It's the first thing that I do.
Yep.
And then if I have clients, then I go into the gym. But I have the flexibility too, because I've moved twice between locating my gym. And so now I'm a little farther away. So I have to commute a little bit more. So I have the flexibility to work from home if I don't have in-person clients.
Yeah, I love it. And then typically, when do you shut down for the day for the in-person clients? When do you get to come back home and you're like, okay, I don't have to be Coach Michaela anymore. I just get to be Michaela and do the stuff that I love to do.
Depends. Like usually between like 3:30 and 4:30. Yeah.
Yeah, which is pretty sweet.
Yeah.
And I would assume you've got the freedom then that you can also go on vacation now.
Yes.
And you can just have all of your clients do online. Like, hey, this week, everybody's online. You're using TurnKey Coach. Upload your videos. I still break them down. Of course, we've got the cool coverage feature and stuff that people can use for coaches that have multiple coaches on the team. They can, there are times I go on vacation or I'm just on an airplane all day and I'll have somebody else break down my clients' videos. And for the most part, the clients seem to like having a fresh set of ice, especially if the coach, and of course, we're very careful with this at Block, if the coach says the exact same things they're hearing from me, then it just solidifies like, okay, he's like, okay, yep, that's what Matt says too. So get your elbows forward on the press, quit chicken winging, or whatever. And they're like, yeah, that's what Matt says. So no, that's great. So what's the future look like as you start to envision, like what's the next year to 3 years to 5 years look like for you in your coaching practice? And how are you going to shift between in-person, hybrid, and online? What's the future goal?
Future goal, I just want to grow. I just need to grow more. I'm still like 1.5 years in. As far as from a coaching standpoint, I do probably within the 1 or 2 years, I want to get the PBC. When I bundled the academy, like I've already paid for it.
Yeah. So now it's like, all right.
Yeah. But from the coach perspective of like wanting to serve my clients better, like as I get more clients that are working longer, you see more problems come out. Because I work with clients that have never touched a barbell. And so now they're a year into training and different stuff comes out. And then it's like from an educational standpoint, like the academy and talking to other coaches allows me to problem solve and troubleshoot with that. But 5 years, I want to at some point hire a coach. Haven't got to that point yet. But TurnKey has allowed me to not make that decision
Sure.
right away because I can serve so many more clients with it. So,
and there's also probably heard me talk about the E-Myth is such a great book because your first hire probably shouldn't be a coach. It should probably be a custodian. And then it should be some sort of gym manager. I don't know if you have a front desk or you just walk in and you're in the gym or whatever. But whatever that is, you start to think about what are the things I'm doing on a day-to-day basis in my gym or in my life that I hate and that also don't cost very much to replace. And you go, let's replace that first, right? And then, of course, at some point, coaching itself is the highest level of technician in our industry. And so you'll probably always coach, just like I still coach. But there will be a time, absolutely, when you'll hit enough clients that you'll hit that kind of maximum amount that you're ready to handle. And you're like, okay, time to bring somebody on and train them on. And the nice thing is that there's a pathway now for that.
yeah.
One of the things that I didn't intend to say this on the podcast, but those of you coaches out there that are listening, that are looking for another coach, especially an online coach where they don't have to live in your town, reach out to us. We can probably connect you with someone who's gone through the academy and has shown great value and growth as a coach. And so when it comes time to do that, we got a pretty good network. And certainly we're very careful. Like we don't sell anybody's name or anything. We'd reach out to them first and make sure like, hey, is it okay if we introduce you? But that's something that you can do as well. So you don't just have to go like, does anybody exist in this area that I can, and we're like, we can look at your zip code and figure out who could potentially fill that role for sure.
That's really good to know for me. I'll be taking you guys up on that. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Of course, as TKZ continues to grow, the nice thing about that is, and we've added, it's been a weird, like we've probably added 15 coaches in the last 3 days, which is pretty fast clip for us, little faster than normal. It's just growing by, as of 3 weeks ago, it was up 175% this year, like not just since January.
Wow.
And we've grown a lot in the last 3 weeks. And so I don't know, we've got to be approaching 200% growth at this point for the year, which has been absolutely incredible. And then we know, again, once we get the native app launched, then that just improves customer experience, the UI, the piece so much more, that interface being clean and pretty and beautiful. And it just is so much more of a selling point to the client. So
yeah,
thank you for doing the show. I really appreciate it. It's been outstanding to hear what's really wild is you actually went through this whole process in a relatively short period of time. I mean, you're talking about 19 to 23, right? 2019 to 2023. And oh, by the way, in the middle of that, we had this massive pandemic and all the gyms closed down. So what should have taken you a lot longer, you were actually able to do pretty quick, which I think, again, is not an angle that I had even considered going into this podcast. And I want to be careful not to be over salesy, but the reality is that the resources are there for you as a coach. I mean, yes, for you, Michaela, but now I'm talking to the listener that's listening.
Yeah.
The resources are there to become the coach you want to be. And so you don't have to keep doing the job that you hate forever. You actually can pretty quickly go through the academy. As a matter of fact, as soon as people sign up now for the academy, they actually get a TKC account as part of that, because again, we want them to know you should be coaching somebody. We understand the complications of coaching a spouse, one of your children, or something like, obviously there's familial issues that sometimes you have to deal with, but that's fine. Coach a family member, coach a friend, coach a neighbor, coach your best friend, coach a coworker. That's a great place to start. And then you learn on TKC from the very beginning while you're learning your skill set as a coach. And you do that with close friends and family. And you might do it for free or do it for cheap. But pretty quick, I mean, gosh, in 4 years, you've made the entire transition from learning how to get strong yourself to full-time, full-fledged coach by 2023. And in the middle of all that, a massive pandemic occurred. So this is sort of a listener, like, what is your excuse? Michaela's crushed it. So, and the reason we're doing this is because you had reached out to us and sent this really nice email about, like, I'm just so glad this thing exists and it's changed my life. And so thank you so much for being on the show. Is there anything else you want to share or promote, especially for those who are in I know you're taking clients both in the Seattle area, but also doing online coaching. So feel free to promote any social media or anything that you want to share before we sign off.
Don't necessarily have anything to promote, but as far as like from an encouragement standpoint, like I did fall into that point of like, oh, well, I don't have like the certification of this, that, and the other. Like even like with starting off with you guys, I was like, oh, well, I need to get my PBC before I get, like, I had that trap at first, right? But then I started coaching my dad and my mom and my brother and my cousin, and they started getting stronger. Like they experienced what I experienced from the get-go. And then it like makes you realize, no, like even if you don't have all of the information, you have something to offer someone and they can get stronger right on the get-go.
Yep.
So I would just encourage people to dive in. You guys have the resources and yeah, don't hold back with it.
Yeah, it's crazy if you do even coaching 101, which is the CJ would be mad, and he will be mad when I say this. The remedial side of that, what's not remedial, but you know what I mean? Like it's the introduction to barbells. If you go through that coaching 101, which is cheap, you will know more than 99.9% of personal trainers in the whole world. And it's pretty simple. And he does such a great job of explaining it in a way that's easy to understand. And then you can do principles, and principles teaches you everything you need to know to pass your PBC. And we've got new upcoming exciting announcements on the advanced classes that I think we're going to actually we're going to debundle them and allow people to purchase those one by one as they need them. Because we're starting to get more and more coaches in through TurnKey Coach who are already advanced coaches, but they need to bone up on post-novice programming or on upper extremity or lower extremity or biomechanics or whatever the thing is. And they're like, I'm deficient here, but they've been coaching for 10 years. They don't need to go 101 to principles, to PBC, to advanced, all that kind of stuff. So I think we're about to allow people to just purchase those individual classes as they need to, because we think it'll make better TKC coaches. And better TKC coaches mean more clients for them. And that means more profit for everybody. And ultimately, you've got to have a business that actually makes money. We love what we do. I would do this for free if I could, but then I wouldn't have a house and my family and my wife would leave me probably. At some point, you have to do it to make money, but that's certainly not the primary reason we do it. We love to serve. It's really great when you're able to do a job, which I joke, even calling it a job, like this is what we do. We train people how to squat and deadlift and improve their quality of life. And so we just try to serve people well. At the same time, if you're able to make some money off of that, like it's just like this double win. It's just win-win. And it's win for the client and win for the coach as well. So anyway, thank you so much for being on the show. It's been awesome to hear your journey, and more of you can do that. So there are some of you listening to this right now. You're just diving into strength training. You're just maybe haven't coached at all. Michaela did this path in just a few years to the path to freedom, and that's available for you all at Barbell Logic. So thank you so much for telling your story. It's a great testimonial.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me.
All right, that's another episode of the Coaching Success Series for Barbell Logic. If you've received value from this show, we would love a 5-star review on Apple Podcast or Spotify or wherever you listen to your podcast. Tell a friend or family member that needs to hear this. Tell somebody who's starting to get into strength training and they're starting to like it and they're starting to love it. Say, hey, there is a really cool path, both client or coach side. Send them to the content. I always do that first. Let them watch the YouTube videos. Let them listen to some of the podcasts and just let the chips fall where they may after that. Like, we found that people that consume the content long enough will eventually become clients. And so that's a perfect story. So thank you so much again for telling your story.
Yeah, thank you.
We'll see you guys next Friday. I hope you guys have a great weekend and a great week next week. And I'll see you next Friday.